Everybody, and welcome to Club 400 Radio. This is our first live show. I am here with my co-host, Stuart McVicker.
We are live at Club 400. Can I hear you guys out there? Wow.
Fan, so I'm a little bit nervous about this, but
yeah,
it'll
exactly.
be good. So, Stu, we got some big guests tonight.
Oh, we do. This is
Very important people.
Yes, we do, and I'm really happy to have these. I gotta say that we've had a lot, because I was born in '73. When I fell in love, so it was because of the 1984 Chicago Cubs, and that's why I'm a Cubs fan here today. So we have two '84 Cubs, both outfielders for them, obviously, and I can tell you this one thing. I'm going to start with our first guest we've had here two times.
He's a two-timer.
Two-timer here today.
That's right.
We should have a jacket for him or something.
Well, we're going to have to get him a jacket.
All right.
And I guarantee you this won't be his last time. He's a friend of mine and my brother's, and I love him like a brother. He was the 1984 Gold Glove winner. He was the spark of your Chicago Cubs. Let's get up for the dear Bobby Dernier. All right, Bobby.
Thank you, Stu.
Two times.
Two times.
So I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna try to get Bobby out here every single year.
Cheers. Can I bring my wife?
You can bring your wife. Yeah.
She says hello from New Hampshire. She was here last year. You were here.
Bobby Dernier and Joey Davis last year, unbelievable. I think they left at 2 in the morning. Both kegs were dry and the alcohol was out. It was awesome.
Thank goodness they've since been refilled. That's good.
Yeah, but Bobby's one of those guys where you meet him and you just can't help but love him. And I'm so glad you came out again tonight, Bobby. He was on a golf course today. He'll be on a golf course tomorrow. And you'll be on a golf course Monday. So yeah, we've had a lot of '84 Cubs out, and one of the things I've always heard was there was one leader on that team, and
Somebody who was in charge?
Somebody in charge, yeah. And I've always wanted him out here. I've met him many times at the Cubs convention. And the funny thing, I'm not trying to date you, but in 1973, I was born, and you were the Rookie of the Year. He was the spark plug. He was the voice. He was the leader of your Chicago Cubs. Let's give it up for the Sarge. The Sarge is in charge here at Club 400, Garry Mathews.
We also have We also have a third guest that is with us here, who is also part of the '84 Cubs team behind the scenes, but he's got all the stories, all the knowledge.
No,
Not all. He's got some of the stories and some of the knowledge. Our guy, Bob Ibach.
So yeah, my first question is I don't know if a lot of you guys know this, but you guys were traded to get in a package deal to the Chicago Cubs. So let's go back to that day and talk about when you guys found out the news, when you guys, figured out you're going together to Chicago. And does that bond you guys for life, or what do you guys think? Because the Phillies were a really good team in '83. You guys went to the playoffs?
World Series.
Whoa, yeah. World Series, and then
Sarge MVP, the National League Championship Series.
So you got traded to the Cubs. Were you mad, or were you upset, or were you like, oh, we're going to Chicago?
Well, personally for me, I was really upset because I used to always hit against the Cubs. I was looking at, on the serious side, all the hits that I was actually losing. Great for Bobby D, because at that time there, he was ticketed to go to the minor leagues and then end up winning a Gold Glove, so it kind of almost resurrected his career. Dallas Green did great for both of us. Probably would have brought a world championship here. if things hadn't happened. My good friend John Vukovic, who was ticketed as a manager, when they fired Dallas, they fired John too. You know, John Vukovic, I don't know if you guys remember him. He's always had some kind of bad things happen to him. A lot of people don't realize in the minor leagues, John Vukovic was actually the third baseman on the AAA team. Mike Schmidt was the second baseman. So that showed you what they thought of John Vukovic. But as the years went on, when they started throwing that curveball, John had a difficult time in hitting the ball. So what he did, he started coaching. And Dallas kind of really took him under his wing and so on. I can remember a game with John Vukovic that in Cincinnati, he was the 8th hitter. And sure enough, we are hitting around, scoring runs, bases loaded. They pinch hit for John Vukovic, the first at bat. And I'll just never ever forget that. But John was a baseball man. He's died since of cancer. But he was a tremendous coach for the Chicago Cubs. And in '84, I got to tell you, as much batting practice as that guy threw, he deserves a lot of credit. And I know a lot of you may not have known him, but man, what a year there.
Yeah, we've lost all our coaches, as a matter of fact, recently. Billy Connors just passed away. We've lost all. Johnny Oates had a cancer, brain cancer as well. Of course, Don Zimmer, Ruben Amaro, not too long ago. All these guys, kind of, there was a Philly connection sort of with those guys.
But we still got Jim Fry around, right? He's doing good.
Yeah.
Jim Fry's doing good, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like 80.
Well, they're not all dead.
No, the manager's alive. The manager's alive, but the coaches, yeah.
So, like, the whole thing about the '84 team was, I think that was the team that brought the Cubs back into the spotlight. You know, the '70s were bad for the Cubs. You guys come to Chicago. Obviously, the trade with Sutcliffe and everything like that, but you guys brought the Cubs back on the map as far, and it helped with Harry Carey obviously coming along at the same time the year before or whatever, but you guys pretty much transformed the Cubs into what they are today. That was you guys were the spark plug of the, bringing the Cubs back to life. And that year was just completely magical. And I'd like if you guys to tell us about how magical it was for you guys.
Well, first of all, Harry never had one base hit, one game when he hit that. Let me just say that. The season was very, very bittersweet, personally, for me. I still stand by saying that Steve Trout deserved to have pitched in San Diego. I stand by that. I said it when it first happened, and there's other people that have vacillated back and forth. But then why did we start Sutcliffe #1 and then Steve #2? So I think, again, personally, that we were kind of counting our chickens before the eggs hatched. In other words, having our starting rotation set up and not knowing that we were going to get to the World Series. If they had to do it all over again, and I asked Dallas that even before he died, what was the reason why they did not pitch Steve Trout in that series? And Dallas said if he had to do it all over again, he would have picked Steve. A lot of people don't realize that Steve probably had more to lose than anyone on our team, simply because his dad in that 45 series pitched for Detroit, Dizzy. So Steve wanted to get back there, and I think that he deserved it in the year that he had. He deserved it. But I stand by again that we won as a team and we lost as a team. So not one individual made us lose, whether or not it was the bad hop single to a Sandberg or the ball underneath Ryan or Durham's legs there, or Bobby D running into me in left field, where
Didn't happen.
I find out that they told him to go catch everything. But the fact is, I mean, you know, we had a great year that year in '84, and you're right. We resurrected the Cubs fan base, and if you look at that year, it's been very difficult to get a season ticket or a ticket after that '84 year. So we will take credit with that, and even though we did choke it at the end.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the memories we have, I think, of that year had a lot to do with you guys, because we literally watched the rooftops start. You know, they weren't really camping out up there, right? And all of a sudden we're looking up, now we're getting pretty deep in the year, and there's lawn chairs, and there's a party or whatever, the people are up there. So, and of course, you guys were in there during batting practice. That wasn't always going on before. And whether it was behind the plate or in the bleachers, you name it, it was a packed house once we were threatening to win every day. And I can tell you that motivated us. We were on WGN and we got a full house, and we got guys who like to sweat. So it was on, and yeah, we were a home field advantage. My only regret, or my only kind of pisses me off, is that we had earned home field, and we weren't given home field advantage. So, and I understand, you know, the television money, all that. But we wanted to play in Chicago with you guys. I don't care if we played under Lake of the Hills. Okay? It didn't matter. We want 40,000 a year. So that's the only thing that kind of still gets in my
Let me comment on that for me. In a series where you're playing the best out of 5, I will take 2 games up any day of the week with the club that we had. There was nothing more that went on than, like my good friend Ron Santo would say when I was teasing him about choking in '69. And he said, well, what'd you guys do in '84? I said, we had the same stake that you had, where we did not win. But again, I will take 2 games up to win 1 with the pitching staff that we have, again, any day of the week. So I don't feel that it was personally, disservice that we weren't in Chicago. We did what we needed to do. We won 2, we're up 2. We did 1 game, and we have 2 guys for me that should have pitched to be able to win 1 game and then get into the World Series. Obviously, not playing at night and this and that, I dispel it only because we were up 2. If we were 1-1 and then lost, I would agree with what Bobby said. But because we were up 2, only needed 1, I'll take those odds all day long.
I like your odds, but I'll riddle me this. You tell me before the year I got to win more than everybody else in the league, and I get home field advantage, and then at the end of the year you take it back?
If I have 2-0, if I'm 2-0, you can have it. If I'm 2-0 and I need 1 game with Sutcliffe gonna pitch and Steve Trout, I'll go to the bank with it.
We don't agree on everything. His cologne's completely different.
I agree with Bobby D.
All right, guys, in the history of baseball, there's been a lot of great nicknames. And tonight we have the Sarge and Deer here. Tell us how you got your nicknames.
Well, for me, it was with Pete Rose. Pete Rose gave me the nickname the Sarge. And at the time, he said, when a future Hall of Famer gives you a nickname, he said it sticks. Well, he got 1 part right.
Yeah, I was there when that happened in Philly. But I think the initial came from Moreland. He liked to shoot deer in the off season. You know, part of my family. And I think he recognized, he said, well, I got everything from where I'm standing to the right field line. Good luck with the rest of that other stuff. So that's why he dropped the deer on the big pasture, I think.
Sarge, you were telling me on the phone, you know, while we were trying to set this up, about how you wanted to give back to the bleacher bums. You had an idea of what you want. The beer? You wanted to buy everybody in the bleachers a beer, is that right? No, go ahead. I want to hear you tell about that story.
You're not cursing when you take that mic away.
This is a good story. I like this story.
John McDonough, now that you know who's the president of the Blackhawks, at the time, I wanted to do something for the left fielder bleacher bum, so I thought it'd be great to just give them beer for 7 innings. John McDonough said we can't do that, and he came up with the idea of the painter's cap, and then had the little Sarge stripes. And when I do autographs to this day, even in Philadelphia, obviously here, they bring those painter's caps out. I've seen them. I can't believe anyone still has those from 1984, to be quite honest. And no, I don't like to paint and paint nothing.
Dude, I think that's a classic story that Sarge wanted to buy everybody a beer in the bleachers. That's unbelievable. I mean, and you went to management and you tried to do it. I think this tells you what kind of person you are. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you very much.
And he had his head in those bleachers too, I guarantee you.
Tell us about, I want you to tell you, because you, obviously, Bob, you played center and you played left, Gary. Tell us about the emotional connection you had with the fans, because the fans are part of you guys, and I know that back then it was a little different. We talk about it on prior shows that there's a lot more connection with the fans than there is today, and wouldn't it be unusual for you guys to walk out of the game and go to a bar and have beer with the fans. So it was pretty cool back then. You guys used to really get to know the fans and hang out with them.
Well, I mean, I love the fans quite a bit. I wasn't doing a whole lot of drinking with them, to be quite honest. We, in '84, it was a situation where, again, no one in the city knew that it was going to happen the way that it did. I will say this, that there weren't a lot of restaurants at all that any of us had to pay for any of the meals, and it was more so gratitude. Because again, when the Cubs are doing well, just about everybody in the city's doing well. Cab drivers, restaurants, etc. So, take it.
Yeah, well, also, Gary, does and did like to drink.
What did I tell you about that?
But he was.
Don't make me part of your stick. You think of your own stories to tell about.
He was generous, though.
And even if I'm drinking, why do you want to tell that out to people? I mean, seriously?
Hey, is he blushing?
No. Hey, well, yeah.
What happens at Club Horn stays at Club Horn.
So.
I mean, really. Don't
He
you
was
have
innovative, though. He
Don't
was
you have some
innovative.
stories? Tell
Yeah,
us.
here's what he did.
Tell us about all those balls you were popping up in the cage here, and I ran your ass out of it. And batting practice.
These guys couldn't count, him or Sandberg, either one. 8 swings. He's taking 9, 10 swings. Okay?
So untrue, but go ahead.
Anyway, so he was innovative. He said, look, you're coming with me. Where are we going? Shenanigans. Anybody know what that was? Okay, it's Wayback Machine. Now how would he know what shenanigans, right? Oh, it's a bar. Okay. Now we're not only going to go over there and have a drink or two, we're going to get paid to go to the bar. Okay, so credit where credit's due. I know you're okay with that. So anyway, I got a story. I've been dying to tell the story.
First of all, it was P.J. Clark's and not shenanigans. But we did get paid
Signed a few autographs, and he was a marketer.
on that. But Tell
slide
that,
back.
no, tell that story
I got a
about
story.
you. No, let me tell this right here. Oh, he was talking about Sandberg and I, we can't count. So, this is simple. I mean, we're following the leadoff hitter. Bobby D is leading off. So, he gets into the cage, right? And after about 3 or 4 swings, Sandberg said, "Hey, Sarge, check out Bobby here in the cage." So I look at him. He's popping every damn ball up in the screen. Bam! Bam! So finally, I mean, he's taking like about 12 swings. We're only supposed to have 8. So I said, "Hey, Bobby D," I said, "how many swings you taking in there?" He says, "I got a brand new bat." Let me tell you, this is on tape. He says, he knows that. That's why he's like, he says, "I got a brand new bat."
I forgot about that.
Oh, no, I haven't. I said, "Well, what does that have to do with it?" He says, "Well, do you want me to take a few swings off the next round?" I said, "Well, no, you don't have to do that, but we're going to follow. If you take 12, we're going to take 12.
Hey, they were better hitters than me. I needed more swings than them.
But the fact is, again, he's leading off. It's going to be a long day for us if Bob Dernier is popping the damn ball up in the cage, even though he hit a home run the first playoff game, or the first, okay? We'll give him a little credit for that. But it had nothing to do, a brand new bat? Really? He's going to take extra swings? Oh my gosh.
Listen, these guys.
I really wish Sandberg was sitting right here.
Oh, please.
Okay? I really do. Oh, we would have a great time.
No, we would. And Rhino couldn't count. Okay, he wasn't counting my swings. He was worried about his own stuff. Jim Fry taught him how to hit, you know. Okay, ask him.
Negative.
No, ask him. So, wasn't you?
It wasn't Jim Fry.
Okay, so
I guarantee you that.
here's the Shinola I had to bring with me on that airplane with him from Florida to
That's a great
Phoenix.
attitude.
Philly to Chicago, right? And he's like, "Well, we're not playing this lovable loser bullshit." I'm like, "Okay, Sarge, you know." Huh? That's what he said. It's a quote.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And that pretty much set the tone for the '84 season.
Right.
You know?
So
You went in that clubhouse, Sarge, and what I hear is you brought a whole new attitude to that team.
Well, I think it was collectively. I mean, you got to look at the way, Sutcliffe pitched, and believe it or not, I thought Eckersley was our best pitcher. We just didn't score any runs for him. Steve Trout had a great year. Larry Bull was steady there at shortstop. Lee Smith closing. I mean, we really collectively just had, personally for me, one of the most memorable seasons in terms of having fun that I've ever played. So it was awesome. And then the next year, people don't realize we're winning the division by 6-7 games. Whole pitching staff went down that year in '85, and that's when those terrible New York Mets fans started to take over for a couple of.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming on Club 400 Radio. Let's give it for Bob Dernier and Garry Mathews. All right, Bob, I got Bob coming up here right now.
Popcorn?
This guy over here. I want to tell you guys something. I met Bob a couple years ago. He's a great asset to Club 400. Now we can really talk dirty. This is where what happens in Club 400 stays in Club 400. We start now. So Bob used to work for the Cubs. 83? You came in? 81. And he worked through both these guys' whole careers has the Chicago Cubs. He was the PR guy, but he did a little bit of everything. Let's get up for Bob Ibach, everybody. Thank you, Stu.
Garry, want a beer?
have a bottle of water. Water right now. I just got killed by mom.
I'm going to shift off a little bit off the 84 year, but Sarge, you and I were talking a little bit earlier. When you broke in with the San Francisco Giants, there was a guy named Willie Mays finishing up his career, and I think Willie only played about 19 games. He went to spring training with him that year, and I look back, and in 1965, Willie Mays hit 52 home runs, and 6 years later, the guy was literally going on the way out. I want to ask both of you, having played baseball all those years, how difficult is it at the very end of your careers to know when it's time to step away? Because you saw what happened to Mays. You saw at the end of your career, I think you ended up in Seattle. And we had this conversation before. Sometimes some of the greatest athletes you have, the Mickey Mantles come to my mind. What makes them so good, what makes them so great, is the fact that these fellas set high standards for themselves. They always think they can achieve. And you're probably the last person to know that you're on the way out.
Well, mine's pretty quick. It happens to a lot of us. At 33, I torn out my hamstrings. I couldn't run anymore. Time to go home. So it wasn't a mystery for me.
Sarge?
Well, I mean, first of all, when you talk about, Willie Mays, when you talk about guys like Willie Mays, Mantle, DiMaggio, even Steve Carlton, those guys, personally for me, for what they put in the game, they deserve to kind of call their own shots. Although, when you look at Steve Carlton and see the way that he was getting hit when he was with Minnesota, you almost start feeling sorry for him. Willie Mays, Gary Maddox took over Willie Mays' job. Gary Maddox, we were both in Arizona at the time. I think Maddox ended up playing, I want to say 11 games, had 9 home runs, 23 RBIs, was hitting .489, so they traded Mays and brought Gary Maddox up to be able to play center field. When you look at Mays, and you look how great he was, and you look at Hank Aaron, and you look how great he was, when you talk to a lot of the black Negro League players that have played, they will tell you those guys couldn't play. They were not starters and would not have played. Robin Roberts, who pitched Hall of Famer for the Philadelphia Phillies, he told me that he hated to play against the Philadelphia Stars. And he said the reason that he did is that he said they beat him so easily. It was like they were laughing and just, almost having a good time. But this is the way that Mays taught us to play. Have a good time when you go out and play, but you got to be able to do the job. Hank Aaron, have a good time, but you got to be able to play the job. I find it interesting that those two guys, some of the best players that have ever played in Major League Baseball, would not have been able to start in the Black Negro League back then. And being able to play with those guys, for me and Willie, you learn things that you just normally won't know. I feel blessed to have grown up in the San Francisco Giants organization with the tradition, with the great players that they've had, and to be able to pass it on to other people, I think is the thing that a lot of those guys there wanted. But I feel blessed to have played with Willie Mays, and I got to tell you, as an athlete, you always think it's never going to win. Michael Jordan's, you always think you're going to play. You never think it's going to end. Michael Jordan the same way. He thinks he can play basketball to this day. He thinks he can play golf to this day, too. We found that out a little bit wrong. But my point is when you're an athlete and you're on that level, you go and you just go And as long as you have the bat in your hand or you're able to run on the field, you always think that you're going to be able to excel.
Bobby, you know, your career ended, what was it, 89 was your last year? And Sarge, yours was what?
87.
87. All right, let's go forward to the way baseball is being played today, because this is a question I think a lot of us out here want to ask you guys. You see all the analytics in baseball today. You see all the pinball guys, the supposed nerds up in the front office playing baseball, the shifts and everything else. Looking at the game today, based on what it was like when you guys played, how do you feel about the game of baseball? The way it's played today, all these shifts, all the analytics, all the other stuff that goes into the game. What's your thoughts?
Well, shifts, they never would shift. Someone like me, for example, I'd be just stupid. I'd hit 700. So, yeah, you got to keep them honest, you know, about being able to move the ball around the field in some kind of fashion. And I don't think that's ever been different. I mean, you know, good hitters that I watched anyway, they were pretty much able to do that. And so, analytics, I'm all for info. I'm good with that. Don't overwhelm me with it. It's a percentage game. We know how to add, subtract, do percentage. He knew what his batting average was every night. Okay, they rammed it in your head. It was kind of part of the gig. So I think we all kind of are guilty of that, if you will. I mean, we're about percentage. We want to know, what are the odds here if there's runner at second, nobody out? How about if I try to drop a bunt? What are the odds I get that run over? Nearly 100%. So I'll take that.
But Bobby, somebody like yourself who, you know, all the stolen bases you had in your career and everything else, hitting the ball the other way, you don't see that. There's not a lot of emphasis anymore these days on the stolen base. I watch a lot of games daily, and you just don't see the stolen base. You know, little things like that, the art of bunting, it's going way downhill.
Yeah, well, stolen bases too is a percentage game. You had to get, I can tell you as a guy who had the green light anytime I wanted it, I had to earn that. You know, in other words, I had to have a percentage of 75% or better, and I was up around 78 or so, whatever, I think, for a career. But I was streaky. I could get 30 in a row maybe, or 20 in a row. But you also had to know when not to run it. Can't make outs when you got 3-run homers waiting on deck. You know, on the bases. And the Cubs are really good, by the way. Watching their base running, they're aggressive. I love that. You know, they've had a couple of weird snafus, hobbies like Copperfield, right? Yeah, and so, but I don't mind if they're aggressive outs, as long as you're not, you know, being kind of unaware of the situation, the game situation, you know. So, for me, all of that stuff is percentage stuff.
Sarge, your thoughts on the game today? Because I mean, you spent a lot of time when you got out as a broadcaster. You stayed in it. You were a hitting coach. So you know, what are your thoughts about the way baseball is played today?
Well, I mean, I'm old school, and as far as, you know, I mean, the analytics, I mean, if you're talking about what a pitcher throws, or how the velocity he throws, personally, for me, I mean, I just think it's a lot of bull. It's simple. You're either driving them in, or you're scoring them, or you're doing both. The guys that I have talked to and been involved there in Philadelphia, and they'll have these, I guess they're shrinks now, and they say, hey, don't mess with the players, this or that. I asked them, I said, you know, Bob Gibson hit me in the ribs. Tell me what I'm supposed to do to be able to hit him. You know what he said to me? He said, why are you asking me that? I said, well, you're the shrink. You're supposed to get me back into the groove. Okay? Let me tell you, if you ain't been hit by 95 or 100, there's nobody can tell me that haven't played and go like, I think it feels this way. You know, the launch angle. You can't launch balls that are up high. It's a natural swing when it's low to hit the ball up. You know, when you go back and you look at the Oakland A's, the Billy Ball, they had guys there that could like hit like Babe Ruth. I mean, it was a misconception. They ended up selling it, which was good. I like the information on the pitcher. Slider, he throws it 65% of the time. Fastball, this percentage of the time. I don't need a guy telling me, like they do on some drills, they'll do flips now and they'll have them take the knob of the bat and hit down on the ball. Okay? When I was a hitting coach and I was instructing my guys, my soft tossing was always overhand because I wanted them to see the action. The soft tossing is only for getting loose, but guys today will hit 100 soft tossing. That does you no good at all. You got to be able to have a strong line. You got to be able to have, and first of all, it's God-given talent to be able to hit a baseball. I mean, it's the hardest thing in sports, period. By none. To hit a ball with a round bat and a guy throwing not so much 95, I could deal with throwing to strike, but sometimes they get up on the wrong side of the bed and they go like Roger Clemens told me one time, Robbie Alomar, he says, I want to hit him in the ribs. I said, why? He said, you know what, he just feels too comfortable. This is Roger Clemens. I just walked away. I lost a lot of respect for him that day because I already knew that pitchers actually threw at you on purpose. And the late Bruce Keeson, who pitched with the Pittsburgh Pirates, he hit me in my elbow, and honestly, it hurts to this day. And he's a broadcaster. Well, he ended up dying. He's a broadcaster, and I'd always go up to him. I said, "Hey, Bruce, remember when you hit me in my elbow?" He says, "Yeah, man, it got away." I said, "Good answer." Okay, good answer. But I'd like the analytics again, and not trying to get off the subject, but I mean,
A little overdone.
well, you gotta. The last time I checked, the team that has the most runs wins the game. Okay, I don't need, like they said, the first baseman there with Detroit. Oh gosh, Cabrera. They said the best thing in the world was for Fielder to be traded so Cabrera could walk more. Well, why do we want him walking more when he can't score on a base hit from first? He's too big. Why not having him drive in a ball to hit a double to score a run? But the analytics say it's better if he walks. That's what I don't get in terms of these analytics.
You know, another thing that Tony Garofalo, you guys know Tony, trainer, when we were there in the Cubs.
Yes.
He told me something the other day that just kind of blew my mind. He said he was talking to one of his colleagues in Baltimore, and you guys know what a recovery room is?
Yeah, they have it where you go in, there's no lights, or they have ice or
Yes.
whatever, you know.
Yeah. Buck Showalter was looking for one of his players the other day, come up to pinch hit in the 7th or 8th inning. And one of the coaches said, "I'm sorry, so-and-so's in the recovery room." This is a room that has beds in it. They've got video games. And, you know, if guy's having a bad day, he decides to go in the recovery room during the game, and he's not available.
Oh no, I believe it. You cannot really, you can't even scream at the players these days. You know, I know with the Phillies, they have the ping pong table in the clubhouse, and you can't even go ask a guy, you know, why'd you swing at that ball in the dirt? They'll tell you, oh. You don't want to upset him. You know? I said, how about him upset me by swinging at that ball in the dirt? You know what I'm saying? So the game has really changed. The fact of the matter is, I mean, obviously with the money and so on, I'm all in if you want to, you know, protect your pitchers because of the investment. But gosh, I mean, every now and then, you know, you got to be able to get on some of your players. And you have managers coming in or guys I'm really, I get upset when I see guys that don't give 100% running to first base. And but the guys of today's game, and a guy I respect, Bryce Hart, he don't run to first. But then the manager doesn't say anything because he does not want Bryce to be upset with him. Oh man, it would be like the Thriller in Manila every single day with him.
Bobby, look back in your career with any manager. Maybe when Dallas was there, because you were there in Philly, and you were too. What is the worst airing out you ever got? What was the situation that a manager came in and aired your butt out?
Oh, I never got aired out.
Yeah.
No, I mean, seriously.
Really?
Never. But there's a reason, and hitting on what he said. It's hustle. Okay, at least, and you guys probably heard this, but Harry Carey gave me the greatest compliment, baseball compliment I think I ever got, from a fan. And this guy was a fan with a microphone. So he said to me, when we're in Montreal at the hotel bar at midnight.
Imagine that.
I know. So he said, I want you to meet my buddy Jacques. He's a restaurateur. Okay, so Harry's eating free. Right? Nice to meet you, Jacques. And then Harry suddenly says, hey, Bobby. And I don't do his voice, but he said, you know what I love about you? I said, well, yeah, what, Harry? You know, he looked at me dead in the eye and he said, even when you stink, you look like you're trying. You'll never get booed at home. Have a nice night. And I was shook. You know, like I think that was a compliment, right? But to him, it certainly was, because if you didn't run to first base, you popped it up, okay, he wasn't afraid to get on you right there, right now. He didn't care if you were making $1 million, you're a 16-year veteran, or you're a rookie, okay? The kids today, they all say this, I do envy they have great nutrition. They're eating good, they get their sleep, okay? They care about how they feel physically. Now, do you think they cared a damn about our generation? Not really.
Well, let me tell you, those guys, they got all the tools and no toolbox. Okay? All those young guys. And by the way, too, really glad to see Hayward finally starting to hit the ball solid. Jeez, I was asking him sometime, man, is something wrong with your eyes or whatever? Because see, when you're in the fraternity, you can go in and say anything. You can joke because they think I'm crazy anyway. So I'll just say to all of them, it doesn't even, I mean, I don't care, really. And especially, even Jason Word, I accused him on the air of being, of pulling off the ball. So I asked him personally, I said, Jason, you afraid of the ball? And then the next couple of days he says, hey, Sarge, can you just stop saying I'm pulling off the ball? Every restaurant I go to, people are saying, hey, Jason, you're pulling off the ball. You know, but 50-something million later, by keeping that shoulder in there, he earned himself and his family something that he'll never have to work again. Great player, though. I enjoyed Jason.
Hey, let me give you a quick insight. Okay, I'm going to flash back to 1982, and I'm playing in Philly. He's there, and
Who's he?
you. So he's playing left. I'm playing right because the Secretary of Defense is playing center field. Okay, Garry Mathews. So anyway, they're putting this up on the big screen up on the Philly fan vision, right? And it says white lightning in white letters every time I'd steal a base or something, right? So I'm getting hate mail from South Philly, from the brothers. Like, hey, like this, you know. And it was nasty. So I didn't know what to do, so I turned to my right and I found that guy. And I said, hey, Sarge, what do I do with this? Now, only he can make this kind of move on you. He kind of cocked his head, and he looked at me. He said, well, Seems to me the only colored lightning I've ever seen is white. So just tell the stadium operator, just put lightning up there. Hate mail stopped in 2 weeks.
Good story.
You know, guys, one of the cool things in over 40, almost going on 50 years of covering sports, one of the things I've always found is interesting when you have a son who gets involved in playing the game after you've played. And Garry Mathews Jr. Had a great career, 10 years, made the All-Star team in 2006. And what was it like to watch your son follow in your footsteps, and how difficult was it not to overcoach him, not to pass along certain things from your own career and let him do his own thing?
Well, first of all, I never coached him at all, and I never even talked about him playing or being in the major leagues. That was really all on his own. Not until college did I start to try and then give him some advice. As you know, and the dads will out there, that sons don't like listening to their dads with that. So I would have him talk to Dusty Baker, who would basically, say the same thing. I think that sons of dads that play in any sports are judged, well, they're under the microscope right away. The same as LeBron's son when he starts, same as Michael Jordan's son when he starts. But Junior would tell me stories that in the minor leagues, the umpires would get on him and call him corporal. You haven't earned any stripes. These things went on, and I would really kind of just play it off because I wanted him to just be stronger. I knew how difficult it was. Easy to get drafted. You guys realize that you go from rookie ball, you got all-stars, they go to A-ball. Then you have those all-stars, go to AA, and then all the way. Every year, 32 players are drafted, 32 gotta go. Easy math. And unless you're having consistent years, you could be the guy that would go. If you're older, you really have a good chance not to be able, to be on the team. I love my son playing. I think personally for me, the hardest thing I had to do was to tell two sons they had to move on, they couldn't play. Now that was rough because they would tell me, "Dad, you ruined my dream." Well, hell, I didn't ruin the dream. He ruined the dream. He wasn't a player to play. I'm an evaluator. I cannot judge because of blood. I was with the Cubs. I ran the Cubs minor league. And if you could play, you could play. If you can't, I love you. But, it's time to move on. It's time to go on and go to college. One of them went. He's working with Major League Baseball now. I'm more proud of him than I am with Junior, who played 12 years. But again, when you sit down face to face with your son, and his dream is to be a major league player or to play baseball, and you tell him, "Hey man, you don't have it." And he says, "What do you mean?" "Don't have the talent." So what do? We both sit there. We cry. I ruined his dreams, he says, but for me to be able to tell him that, and then more so, and looking back on it, for him to be very, very successful, it was the right thing to do. I didn't want him to waste another 4 or 5 years in the minor leagues, these flea bag hotels. Well, they didn't leave the light on for us, but this minor league stuff was rough.
That's the toughest thing about baseball, and most people forget that. College, football, okay?
Sure.
You come out, you're going to know pretty soon you're going to play or you're not going to play, you get on with your life. Baseball, you could spend 10 years in the minor leagues.
I'm going to call Junior and tell him he's more proud of Delvin than you.
I got news for you. He's on the low totem pole in terms of the athletes. I've done my niece, Asia Evans, the best athlete in the family. Why? She won a bronze in Sochi in bobsledding. She took 5th place this year, and I told her I was still proud of her. She's 6'1", bench presses with her legs 400. No guy in my family can come close to that. That's why she's the best family. So you can tell Junior that, and he's going to tell you, hey, let's talk about maybe the mac and cheese. Let's get off to the sport.
Hey, he made the greatest catch I ever saw. One of them in history. Only a great athlete can make that kind of play. Who's seen that play? Anybody see that play?
Yeah. That was a great catch.
Hell yeah.
Amazing play.
On that catch, I got so many calls. Garry Mathews was on his bike. He says, listen, text me his number. I got to know what he was thinking when he was in the air. And I think really more so it was just instincts. You know, I can't believe he caught it, to be quite honest.
And he got it from you, Garry.
No, he didn't. No, I'd like to hit it. He likes to catch it.
No, he liked to catch them, and he put a little extra show in it. He'd make a little dive and a tuck and a roll and pop up, hat fly.
It's all about theater, right?
That's why they call it the show.
That's what they call it the show. Hey, you know, this year, I've seen my own son, Kevin. I had to go through the same thing, Sarge. You know, my son got to play college baseball and then started out in the pros with the Orioles. And then, you know, they had to finally tell him it was over. And he went on to play, go in the front offices. Now he's a pro scouting director with the Tampa Bay Rays. And one of the things I was asking Kevin recently, because the Rays have been doing this year, you're aware of it, what they call the openers for pitchers. If anybody hasn't been following, what they've done is they'll start a relief pitcher for 2 innings, and then they'll bring another relief pitcher in and go another 2 innings. Some of this was by necessity because some of their starters went down. They recently traded Archer to Pittsburgh, and they only had really Blake Snell as a starter who just came back off the DL. What are your thoughts about watching baseball? Because it seems now a lot of teams are starting to catch on, and you're putting these relief pitchers as their openers and so forth. Maybe every 3rd or 4th start, you're getting a combination of 5 or 6 relief pitchers, lengthen the games, but supposedly the idea is that, well, you're only going to face these batters once, and then they're going to see another round, a different pitcher. How would that affect you as a hitter? Seeing 5 different pitchers come in a ball game every night, 2 innings, 1 inning at a time. So you're always adjusting to somebody's velocity, you're adjusting to their repertoire or whatever.
Well, again, personally for me, if I don't have to face Nolan Ryan, J.R. Richard, you want to send me them other ducks? Game on.
Game on, right?
I mean, I don't understand why they're trying to invent the wheel, but I'll take a reliever any day of the week for me. You can put 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. Personally, they don't have enough. That's why they're relievers.
Did you see a big difference when you were playing? The 2nd time and 3rd time you faced the same pitcher, did it make you much more comfortable? Obviously, you saw all their pitches.
Well, it depends on the pitcher. Depends on their attitude that night. I mean, you know, they don't always have good games. I mean, Bob Gibson, Steve Carlton, again, J.R. Richard, and so on. I mean, you go up in that 1st inning, you know, you're in Chicago, you get a hit off of those guys that 1st inning, you're praying that it doesn't rain. You don't want to revisit that particular at-bat on those kind of guys right there. But again, very seldom on any of the relievers, I couldn't care less about facing any of them.
You guys been to Dodger Stadium? Okay, and back then it was a longer walk to the dugout from home plate than it is today. And I punched out for the 3rd straight time. The only guy that ever did it to me, Bob Welch. and I was hoping I didn't see him for that fourth at bat. Okay, so there's an example of it. Today, I think what they really look for, I want 4 or 5 guys that throw 100 to come in and throw an inning, just 100, one guy after another. That's what I see that they're kind of going after. I say let them move up to 50 feet. It'll be 100.
Bobby, before we throw out some questions here to the audience, I want to get some feedback. One last topic I want to talk about, and that's one of the characters in the game that both you guys played with for a while, Jay Johnstone. Now, my Jay Johnstone story goes back to, I think it was about 82, 83. Ned Coletti, my assistant at that time, later the Dodgers general manager, we wrote a book called Cub Fan Mania, paperback book, and Jay ordered 5,000 copies of this book, had them delivered to Wrigley Field, only to find out that it was taking up the whole clubhouse. We were on a road trip at that time in Cincinnati. So he had to get rid of the books, brought them up to WGN, the studio where the heliport was down on Addison, and he'd come to the ballpark every day with a box of these books underneath his arm. And he'd go out in the bleachers and sign the books, mark it up to $5 and selling them for $10. Well, this one day, Lee Ilya, our manager, was looking for a pinch hitter late in the ball game, couldn't find Johnstone. And I got the binoculars, I'm up in the press box. I said, Ned, I got a really bad feeling. I said, I'm going to take a look out toward the left field corner, because in those days our clubhouse was all the way down the left field line. Well, sure enough, there was Jay on the catwalk out there in the 7th inning in uniform selling the book. So I called Yosh Kawano down. I said, Yosh, get Jay out of the stands. Ilya's looking for a pinch hitter. We're playing the Dodgers that day. And so Yosh comes out with his little sailor cap. He's waving to Johnstone. Jay comes down, grabs the bat, comes in, gets a 2-run double, and we beat the Dodgers that day. Ilya asked me later on, he says, how'd you find Jay? I said, well, I had to protect him. I said, Yosh told me he was back in a crapper. He's having a bad day. So Lee went along with that. 25 years later, I told him the real story, what he was doing. But Jay was a character. What's your best Jay Johnstone memory? Either one of you guys have one?
Personally, for me, I have not one. The only one that I saw that would have been was on television when I think Garry Mathews picked up a ball in right center, and he threw the ball and he just fired it right up on Jay Johnstone's head. That's the only one I can remember.
I wore number 20, and Jay wore 21. I never saw him the whole year. He knew where every payphone was in every stadium. Okay, and then outside of that, he was always selling something.
Oh yeah, he had a gig going, but he always explained to me when he came up in '65 with the Angels. His first roommate in 1965 was Jimmy Pearsall. He also his locker, Dean Chance was on one side and Bo Belinsky was on the other. So he claimed he never really had a chance from the beginning. But when Jay first came up, he tells me the story. You remember Ted Boesfield pitched for I think it was the Angels, Bill Rigney. And one day they were playing in Yankee Stadium when the monuments were still on the field, in left field. So Boesfield's getting his head kicked in. Rigney goes out to make a pitching change. And so Pearsall comes over from center field, and Johnstone's in left. And they sit behind the monuments that were out there because it was a hot August day, get out from the sun. So now play resumes. They made a pitching change, and there's no Pearsall in center field. Johnstone's out, and Rigney comes over, waves to him. He says, "Where the hell's Pearsall?" He says, "I told Jimmy." He says, "We're ready to play." He says, "Jimmy said, I got 7 kids. I'm getting my head kicked in here in center field. I don't like the pitching change. I'm not going to go back to center field." So with that, Johnstone comes in, talks to Rigney, and he says, "Skip, he's not coming out. He doesn't like who you brought in." He says, tell Pearsall, he says, "Give him one batter. Who does he want in there? I'll make the change." And that's exactly what happened. I mean, Jay was kind of goofy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, he played for Philly and the Cubs and others. He was Hollywood to me. He was like always on always making deals.
Remember those blue chamois that we used to wear the jackets? That was another deal he
You
got.
know, we had another guy, Richie Hebner.
Yeah, oh, Hacker?
Yeah, Hacker was on that team. And they were the older, veteran guys, left-handed backs coming off the bench, and they were a big part of that club. I mean, having that pop off the bench.
Absolutely. Let me throw it out to the audience. We got a couple of folks that want to ask Sarge or Bobby a question. Got a microphone that we can share?
All right, my question is for Sarge. So when I was a kid, the thing that intrigued me about you is every time you got a hit, you always flipped the helmet off. When did that start, and why did you do it?
Well, it actually started when I was 7 years old playing in Little League. And I did it because I felt uncomfortable. And the reason I know I did it back then, because I had friends that came to the games and said, man, you're still flipping that helmet. But I only did it on hits and potential hits, never on a home run.
I was just wondering for the both of you, which was the starting pitcher that you feared the most?
None for me.
No fear. Look forward to a little more than others? Yeah. Nolan Ryan, Doc Gooden, they were rough. But more look forward to them than fear them. Yeah.
Bobby, I seem to remember a story like you challenged Walter Payton to a race. Did that ever happen? And
Walter
Payton?
Total fabrication, no. He wouldn't want to do that.
Really, Crowley?
Both of
Hey,
you,
Mac, will you grab me a beer, please?
We got one over there.
No, I want a cold.
It's cold. It's cold.
Swear.
It looks cold.
Never mind. Rosanna, right?
Both of you gentlemen have managerial experience. Coaching experience. When you see Joe Madden, he's brought the Cubs to the NLCS 3 times in a row. What is it about what Joe does that you think is maybe interesting or something that you wish your coaches would have done back in the day?
Well, Joe's, he's in our age group. He was playing in the minor leagues back in our times, okay? And he went right into coaching and on from there. But I think more than anything, what I like about Joe is he's a guy that easily as a player, I mean, you can see even today as an ex-player, I'd say, I would have liked to have played for that guy. It's kind of how he goes about his business. And he has a real connection with this young generation. It's quite amazing to me.
Well, personally, again, and being a hitting coach, you want to be a good hitting coach? Have good hitters. Period. You cannot have a guy that cannot hit or only hit a breaking ball. And when I go give interviews, I tell the general manager, if I look at and you have guys on your team that can't hit the fastball, I said, I'm the wrong guy for you. Joe has a good team. He's got good players. They surrounded him with good players. Period. So, again, manager is managing. To win on any team, you got to have really some good players, good pitchers, good closers, and some good luck that no one has or sustains a lot of injuries during the year.
Another question.
Yeah. So you're both great players. You played for a long time in the major leagues, and yet you played with really top players as well, and you played against some of the best players of all time. So I'm really interested who you think the best hitter was you ever played with or against, and the best pitcher you ever had to face.
I don't even know if you can answer that. Ted Williams was a great hitter. Okay, I knew him. Tony Gwynn, a great hitter. Cesar Cedeno, Willie Mays. So I can't categorize one as you're the number one, best hitter. Pitchers, I respected pitchers from Tommy John to Nolan Ryan because of the fact they were in the major leagues, period. Had nothing to do whether or not, I hit well off of a particular pitcher. I think personally for me it was always the respect. I never thought anything was easy, even in the minor leagues, personally. It's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of dedication, and most of all, it's God-given talent that you are where you are in terms of in the baseball field.
Yeah, well, and I ditto there. I mean, but you mentioning the fact that we got to play with and against the guys that we did, that's why I was always, whenever I'm asked, I say, well, I wouldn't trade a dime's worth of that for today. I don't care what the money is. That stuff's priceless. As a young player, I can tell you coming up with generational guys. I mean, guys that have been playing in the 1960s, like Pete. And, and Steve Carlton was probably the most impressive from standing behind him. I mean, watching him do his work and kind of how he went about it off the field and so on. That was probably the most impressive, but there were so many hitters alike. Sandberg, probably one of the greatest athletes I was ever around. And I saw him at 18 in rookie ball. So, and he cheats too, though. Not steroids. He's a 2 handicap, I'm an 8. That means I get 3 aside. He said, no, you get 1 aside. You need to play better. That's golf cheating.
We've got to wrap it up, but that one last thing. In 1984, because we got both these fellas here from the ball club, Ryne Sandberg was our MVP, but both of these gentlemen got MVP votes in the National League. I think, Sarge, you finished 4th in the balloting that year. And Bobby, you were somewhere in the
tied 17 with Peyton.
17, yeah. But that's
our whole team got votes.
We got
it was
tons
that
of
kind of
votes.
team.
The growth of Sandberg that year. I mean, I saw Rhino when he first came up with us in '82, and the spring training and the growth between then. He almost got sent down after that 1-for-31 start. Dallas Green actually told me to put together a press release in late April when he went 1-for-31 that they're going to send him down. But apparently the guy that was going to come up and take his place had a groin pull, and he said keep him around for a few more days. Well, he got hot in May. That 5 days later, he told me to rip up the release, and that never happened. What was Rhino's growth in your eyes? Because you saw him in Philadelphia in '84, and how he took off and actually, he didn't lead the club like Sarge did emotionally, but he did lead by some of the things he did at the plate that year. What are your thoughts on Rhino?
Yeah, well, and I think it's always about teamwork. Okay, and having played with Rhino in the minor leagues, we treated it like that. So we were used to doing that. Hey, you get on base, we'll run and hit, we'll do our thing. And I knew what he was kind of thinking and how he would go about it, especially off certain pitchers, as well as he did me, I think. But really, and this is all about credit where credit's due, what we did that year was largely because we had monsters like him, and Moreland, and Durham, and Jody, and Say. They came one after another. So they kind of forgot about us a little bit. Okay?
There were no holes in that lineup. There were no holes. Sarge, your thoughts of Rhino, what you'd seen before in Philly, and also what you saw his growth in '84 and taking off.
Yeah, never saw him in Philly. Actually, never saw him until I got to the Cubs. Obviously, just by reputation, knowing that he could play. And, looking back on that season, I thought it was the St. Louis series that put him on the map, and the rest is history.